now, the moment I speak to you, I've been in New York since 9 years. And of course, the first thing you do and you hear when you come to New York is you hear about Ellis Island. Ellis Island, which was, this little island right outside of Manhattan that was the port of entry for any immigrants who would come to the US. And they had welcomed 12 million people. And if you look at the island, it's like this. And people would arrive on one side of the island, and if they had any disease, they would go through a tunnel that are my fingers here and end up on the other side of the island, which was a hospital. And, out of the 12 million, it's been, of course, a small number, but a lot of people would have any kind of disease, would be sent them in quarantine. And interestingly, this side of the island had never been restored since they closed the island. So it's exactly like it was left when they stopped welcoming people and when they stopped using Ellis Island. I've heard about this because I saw this book from this photographer, Stephen Wilkers, and he had photographed this abandoned site, and which is really like fascinating. And I was like, wow, I'd love to go there to see, but it was not open to public. So we had struggle, and we had, wrote them and went to see Ellis Island, and you could see it from a distance, that side, but you can't go to it. And at some point, we find a way to go there, and they show us quickly. And then we ask permit to do some pasting, because I have this project called UNFRAMED, which is a project where I don't use my own photography, which is a project where I actually use photography from the archive of the place and reuse them, in a location where they would make sense. And so in this case, I look at all the photos that Ellis Island had, and they had a few where there was migrants arriving, migrants staying in the hospital, migrants, arriving there. And I proposed them a project. It took them 4 years to then give us authorization. And we started walking there on Ellis Island and pasting those images in this ghostly abandoned hospital where all the windows are broken and the wind is passing through, and there's still the beds and the chairs and the room for surgical operation. I mean, it's hairy. And we installed those photos and documented it and photographed them, so that in location. And then realized that maybe no one would ever see them because it's too dangerous. The ceilings are falling, and it would be dangerous for anyone to come there. But luckily, after it made it to the paper in the New York Times, they decided to open it and say, you can come and visit that side of the island. It would be called the Hard Hat Tour. And it's just that you need to go with 2 guards, and we can only take a group of 8 or 10, and you would have to wear a hard hat in case something falls on you, and you can tour in it and tell the story. And until this day, you can still do it, except that some rooms are falling slowly because of the sea and the salt, and so the building is falling down. So at some point, I was like, well, I need to document this place so that I keep a trace of those pasting, of this art, who's holding up pretty well in there because it's indoor mainly, but of those buildings that will soon disappear. So I proposed them an idea of a little short film, a little poem that would be, someone walking through the place like if he had been stuck there, because you can have the feeling there's a lot of ghosts in there. There's a lot of ghost stories actually. And I pitched it to Robert De Niro, who accepted to do it, and who said he would do it if there was a great writer to write it. And then we asked Eric Ross, who the amazing, writers of many movies, from Forrest Gump to Benjamin Button to you name it. And his family had came from Ellis Island. So he was like, I'd love to work on this and write you something. So he wrote the story, and Jane Rosenthal, who works closely with Robert De Niro, helped produce it. And then we started working on a 12-minute little film that would be shot there in real location. Well, when that happened, there was a big snowstorm, which was amazing for us, but very complicated for the shoot. And also they had made this clear rule that we couldn't plug anything. We had to use natural light, and we couldn't put anything, touch the wall or anything. So everything you see in that little film, which is online, which we always gave for free, because when that film came out, we wanted people to be able to organize screenings all over the world and then conversation after the screening. So we released it this way. We said to people online, if you can host a screening, even like 20, 30 people, doesn't matter. If you can host a screening and up to 800, 1,000 people, the film is only 12 minutes. So, you might organize a talk after. And what was interesting is depending where they would organize it. If it was in the US, they would invite some Mexican migrants. If it was in Italy, they would invite some Syrian. Like, depending on where it was, they started conversation with people who are migrating at the very moment. And all those debates started happening all over. There was more than 850 screening. And instead of sending them a link, we sent them an actual little book where there was a USB key inside. And they really had the file of the movie before it was anywhere. And there was no leak, actually. I was really surprised. People felt, oh my God, I hold the key of the movie. And then 1 month later, we released it on any platform, even platform that was in competition with each other. We were like, this is not about competition. This film is for free and need to be seen by people. And so it was at the same time on airplane, on iTunes, Netflix, you name it. And that, I think, was the most interesting part of the journey, is that this little poem had started a lot of discussions, and I hope it will still do it.